That was by far the worst game we've played. Arguably the worst game we could have played. But we were still in it, though. Today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for making this your first watch or listen every single day. I couldn't appreciate it enough. Wherever you're watching or listening, be sure to subscribe so we can prove once and for all it is in fact a Cyclone state. All basketball today. The men lose in West Virginia, first conference game of the year. Is this a big deal? And then the third segment will break down the women falling to number 20, West Virginia, going 0 for 2 on the hardwood in Morgantown this weekend. Rough look for sure. But before we can get to that, first things first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, to start things off, we're going men's basketball. Obviously, number 2 in the nation, falling to unranked West Virginia. This was a sloppy game. 57-64 final score here. And let's just take a look at the box score. Obviously, no Milan for Iowa State. And as I mentioned on Friday, this is our first game. Obviously, the Kansas, that whole situation kind of last second, not really right before tip-off, but hey, by the way, no Milan tonight. I felt like that was a very gettable game for the Cyclones. This one, however, a little bit more up, kind of time before the game. Just felt a little bit different as far as the Milan thing goes, and I kind of wonder how much of a role that played. That being said, top scorer for the evening was Curtis Jones, starter in this one with 18. And then from there, it's Keyshawn Gilbert with 13, Joshua Jefferson with 10. Taman Lipsey had 6 of his own, Deshaun Jackson 4, Brandon Chatfield 4, Nate Heisey had a bucket. That doesn't feel like a lot of points, does it? No, you'd be exactly correct if that was your assumption. You're like, wait, only an 18 and then maybe a 13 and one other double-digit scorer for the Cyclones? Well, think about it. 57 points. 57 points for the Cyclones in this one. That's wild. I was like, that feels really, really, really low because remember when we beat Kansas 74-57 just the game prior, TJ said, hey, when you hold a team to 57 points, that's some lockdown defense. I had that ringing in between my temples, and I was like, I feel like that's just like not characteristic of Iowa State. And I don't have an actual statistic here for you on the average points per game, but previous to this, our least amount of points in a game was 74. Beat Baylor 74-55. We beat Kansas 74-57. Outside of that, you got 179, and everything is 80 or more. Granted, I could be missing something, but it pretty much up and down the board here. We scored 100 against Jacksonville State, and pretty much everything else is mid-80s. So I'd say average points per game for this team is about 84, 85 if you exclude this 57-point skid. I don't really know like that. That's horrible. Okay. West Virginia, Javon Small had 27 points, and we'll talk about him more in a second as we get into this game breakdown. But Hansberry had 12 of his own off the bench. And then Powell had 9. I'm not here to talk about West Virginia too much, but who hurt us? Javon Small. Okay. Now, team effort, yes. And we'll talk about that more. But Javon Small, dog. Now, Iowa State, let's look at some just major statistics here. As pointed out by Curtis Jones in the postgame presser, 1 of 17 from beyond the arc and only 4 assists on 25 makes. It's all right here in the box score. Atrocious, to be completely honest. 5.9% from 3 is really bad. Very, very bad. Now, think about it for a second here before we get too crazy and doxing, just kind of dogging on the Cyclones here. Think about like the NBA guys. When they shoot at shoot-arounds, whenever you see videos coming out during the summer, they are not missing. It's like Stephon Curry hits 29 threes in a row and then hits a turnaround and barely misses. But then you get in a game and he's shooting like 35%. I don't know exactly. I don't have numbers. I'm just using generalities here. What makes shooting harder? When someone's guarding you, okay? West Virginia was smothering this entire game. It was actually insane. And I hate to say this, to be completely honest. I really don't love saying this because that's kind of what this team is predicated on. But I feel like we kind of got out physical here. Okay. And all it makes me think of is NCAA 25. But either way, I feel like we got out physical. Does that mean that Iowa State was like laying down? No, I'm not saying that. You can lose 199 and you still lost, right? 99, a lot of points. We were still relatively physical in this game, but I don't think we were more physical. I absolutely think West Virginia, it felt to me like they wanted it more. They were more ready to be there, and they were more physical. It felt like Iowa State was just kind of in a haze and unprepared. I'm not saying they were unprepared, but it certainly felt like they were just in a haze almost. Like they weren't really themselves. They were very stationary, I thought, throughout this game. Very sloppy. Sloppy Joe was the first thing that popped into my head as I was watching. I mean, what did we have here? 14 turnovers. And honestly, the end of that game was kind of where it was highlighted, but it was throughout. 100%. I thought overall we just felt slow. I don't know. I'm not going to say that they out-efforted us, but it kind of looked like it. It certainly did. And so I don't know, but you shot 1 for 17 from 3. You shot 6%. That's an average day for me in the gym, but this is the D1 Iowa State Cyclones men's basketball team. This is not average. This is an outlier, a significant lower number than they are used to. So maybe you push that to 4 of 17. That's 9 points right there. All of a sudden you win 66-64. Now, I know that you can't play those games. That's a hypothetical, and nothing plays out the same way when you just change one stat. I understand that. Just saying 1 for 17 is very, very poor. And that was 100% a result of West Virginia being just so much more physical, flying around, always on, always looking for that ball. As I said, with the stationary, a lot of just standing around dribbling, surveying. Where are we going? Where are we going? Just dribbling. Look. Boom. Ball's going the other way. Slam dunk. Okay. And on top of that, Javon Small was, I don't know if he has, those like pro cards once you're a professional in something. This is not a slight at Javon Small. He might have his pro card in the circus. He was just unreal with circus shots in this game. Had one pivoting around Curtis Jones. Should Curtis have given him that angle? No, but he did. And either way, to beat the shot clock, I mean, that was an insane shot. Hit a 360 little spin move to split defenders and then drive it. I mean, he was on fire. And a couple of times in this game, I thought Iowa State gave them points. Javon Small was like earning points. So that was actually really cool to see. But on that note, another perfect kind of thing to mention, it felt to me like Iowa State was confused defensively. There were too many opportunities for West Virginia with wide open shots. Way too many. And this is something we've kind of seen, but it gets cleaned up throughout the course of a game. Just switches defensively. We had 2 guys tailing the ball, leaving one wide open outside for 3. West Virginia only shot 33%, 9 of 27 from beyond the arc. But when you have 6 or 7 makes that are wide open, and I don't have the exact number, but when you have that many, it's just like, what did you expect? These are D1 basketball players. If you give them a wide open shot from beyond the arc, they're probably going to make it. Most of them are probably going to make it. So, yeah, I'm fired up because this team is better than this. This is by far, in my opinion, the worst game they've played. And I don't know how much worse it could get than this, which is a good sign. But still, it was ugly. I mean, I don't really get that upset very often. But when I was watching the highlights back, like, I feel it, feel my blood pressure going up. Like, I was just like, what are we doing out there? So this team is better than this. They absolutely are. Is this a big deal going forward? Is this an indicator of what this team might be for the rest of the season, or is this a one-off? Will this team be just fine? I don't know. You'll have to stick around to find out. We'll break it down coming up right after this. This message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions in winnings. Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your picks hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about the hot takes this season. This week on Prize Picks, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson for more than 250 passing yards and Travis Kelce for more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict and easy to play. Plus, with Prize Picks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. Iowa State falling to West Virginia, number 2 to the unranked Morgantown Mountaineers. Certainly hurt me. It absolutely did, absolutely still does. But is this a big deal moving forward? We got to break it down right here, right now, here on Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. In my opinion, let's kick it off. No, this is not a huge deal. But as you know by now, every coin has 2 sides, a third if you count the outside. To me, this feels like it was a little bit of that rim of the coin. Very much an outlier. Only 57 points for the Cyclones, 1 of 17 shooting from beyond the arc. Sloppy play. I don't think, to me, they just didn't look ready. And I don't know if that's fair for me to say, but it's how it looked. And I'm going to say it how I feel it. You know, that's how I roll. Now, the big thing with this game is that there was a change prior to this game. Milan Momcilovic is injured. For how long? Seems like maybe 4-ish weeks. 4 to 6 is the number that TJ gave. I haven't seen anything official. If you see anything official, let me know. I got my Twitter right over there. That is going to make an impact on this team, 100%. But I don't think, even with that change, that this team is that much worse. We saw them beat Kansas. We saw what they were able to do, okay? And to be completely honest, I mean, we played Texas Tech on the road, win that one, but it's only by a point. Played Colorado on the road, but we beat Colorado previously, so I know that we are better than Colorado. But this is one of the first road games for Iowa State in conference play. You played Baylor at home, Utah at home, Kansas at home. Then you got West Virginia on the road, a very good team, very tough, very physical team, very fast on the road, tough place to play. It's always tough to play in the Big 12, tougher to play on the road, okay? There are a few things in this game that are concerning to me. Effort level being one. Defensive, I'll say, I don't want to say lack of awareness, but it just felt like confusion. Can't have it. Seriously. I mean, you could probably get away with it against an Omaha or a Morgan State. No slight to those 2 teams, but they're not in the Big 12. I don't think it's an unfair assessment to say that Morgan State is not as good as any team in the Big 12. Sorry, Morgan State fans, if you're watching. The amount of wide open looks they were giving them just due to defensive, mind blanks, I guess, was too many. Okay. And effort wise, protecting the basketball wise, you're not going to always shoot 80%. Okay. You're not always going to shoot 50%. You're not always going to shoot 40%. So 6%, it's kind of making me feel like this team's going to be okay. Shot horribly. But that was also a result of what West Virginia was able to do. Okay. So I see both sides of this. My official take is going to be, we're going to be fine. Okay. And honestly, this might be good for him. Okay. It'll show, obviously Momcilovic, that a whole piece of this equation, but also this team. Maybe I was wrong in saying that number 2 overall isn't a big deal, because they looked like they just were like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll come out on top. That's how it looked to me. And that's not what I want to see. We need to see stepping on the throat type of playing basketball, not just, all right, go up 10. We'll come back. 1 of 17 from 3. You're not going to come back in a lot of games, especially with losing the turnover battle 14-9. Okay. So is this a big deal? In my opinion, I'm going to go with no. I think they'll be fine. But also, it's not something I can just ignore. Okay. This game was ugly in so many ways. Too many ways. I honestly, personally feel like Momcilovic being on the floor adds something intangible to this team. The way that they move the rock, the way that they press. I mean, when you look at, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with a little bit of a sore throat here. So I might have to pause a few more times here. But fast break points, 19 for West Virginia, 2 for Iowa State. That right there is TJ Otzelberger basketball. Fast break points, and we lose 2-19. In just that point, in that point alone. 8 second chance points to 6, no big deal. 40 points in the paint for the Cyclones, kind of what I said they needed to try to do. West Virginia only had 22 points in the paint. Take that with, kind of how you will. But overall, I think this was a very concerning game, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, we're going to bounce back. We got UCF on the 21st and Arizona State on the 25th here. For those of you confused by the date, that is Tuesday and Saturday that they'll play. UCF, Arizona State. I think we're going to be okay. I do. But this one, we didn't just like Texas Tech. If we lose that game by a point, right? Or if Kansas, if we don't really run away with the end of that one and it comes down to like a 1 or 2 point game, I'm not concerned as much with those. Yes, the Texas Tech game, I had my moments. I had my concerns. But it's not like this. This one was ugly. Ugly. And you want to get to one that's really concerning on top of the points in transition or the 1 of 17 from 3, which, like I said, will fluctuate, but was a direct result of West Virginia's defensive pressure. 4 assists on 25 shots is not Iowa State basketball. And that number exactly says it, felt like a lot of ISO ball. Just felt that way. And everyone's going to have their own take on how they feel about that. But that one to me was just, I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't get fired up too often, but watching that, condensed game back, I mean, that's tough. That's tough. And it's because I know we're better than that. Okay. If West Virginia was number 2 and we lost 64-57, and it was a tight game and we shut them down where we wanted to, then it's different. Everything's relative. This team is number 2 in the nation, and I think they're deserving of that. At least they were before this game. Yet that's the product they put out on the floor. Okay, and credit West Virginia. I mean, they played unbelievably. And I'm not saying that we lost this game because we shot 1 of 17 from 3. Or we shot, half of the equation was West Virginia being just wanting it more, being dogs, flying around. I mean, Javon Small, one guy. Like, West Virginia had just as much to do with this, if not arguably more, because of the what they forced Iowa State to do than Iowa State did. But there's 2 teams, and you can play that card however you want. I just feel like overall Iowa State has a lot to learn from this game. This is not the Auburn loss was rough, but I didn't feel like this. Okay, last second tip into number 4 Auburn versus, I mean, the way that they kind of threw the end of this game away against West Virginia was really concerning, on top of everything that had happened in the first half and the first 18 minutes or so before it was 2 minute kind of drill was very concerning. And then, you only put a 50. I don't know, just a lot of things around this game that makes me kind of nervous. But my official take is not a big deal. Iowa State will be fine. We're going to figure out how we're going to maneuver, how we're going to navigate the Momcilovic situation, how we're going to play guys, what's the rotation, what's the number of minutes, what's their role on the court. There was promising moments in this game for sure. But I think this is a great opportunity for Iowa State to sit back, reflect, take a look in the mirror. What happened against West Virginia? What happened in every game prior to this? 1 point win over Texas Tech. How can we evaluate that? What did we do well against Kansas? What did we do well against our 19-point win over Baylor? Take all the good ones, all the bad stuff. Do not ignore it. Learn from it. Boom. You've built a better team. We're moving on. We're getting better. Okay. As I said, UCF on Tuesday and then Arizona State on Saturday. Great opportunity for the Cyclones to bounce back here. Great opportunity. It's all there. It's all there. Momcilovic, we're going to figure that out, but it's all there. This team is great. And I don't think this, in my opinion, affects their chances at a national title. I think this team is still Very, very good. You're playing a Big 12 a Big 12 game on the road. Tough environment. Okay. But we have to be better than that. We have to be better than that. Now, speaking of kind of the Momcilovic situation, interesting thing arose before the Iowa State West Virginia women's basketball game. We're going to break that down and the entire game as a whole coming up in this third segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and they'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So we've talked about the Iowa State men falling to West Virginia. Certainly an emotional game for me personally, but that's not the only game that was played between the Cyclones and the Mountaineers in West Virginia in Morgantown this weekend. Iowa State women took on number 20 ranked West Virginia and unfortunately fell 68-82. Okay, not a great look here, but we got a lot to break down. Number one thing coming off the bat, first thing we have to address, no Emily Ryan in this game. That is, I have not seen why. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but I just can't find it. Traveled with the team, just did not play. I don't even think she participated in warmups. So obviously going to be a different dynamic for this Cyclone team with everything that Emily Ryan does for them. We've talked kind of over and over and over, and I'll say it again, about what this team needs to do. What do they need to do? Score points across the board. Instead of 45, 1, 1, 1, and 0, why don't we go 20, 18, 16, 12, and 10? 20, 18, 16, 12, 10. Yeah, that's 5. That's your starting 5, right? Or you bring, maybe you have 2 points from one of your starters, you bring 18 off the bench, something like that. That's what is going to make this team great. They have to go about it that way. Now, who are the players we were talking about when mentioning the kind of one-sided scoring, right? It's Audie Crooks, Emily Ryan is right in there, and maybe Addie Brown or Sydney Harris, depending on the night. Emily Ryan, one of those names. Big deal when she's not in. Obviously, the assist that she provides for this team, a major component as well. What happened in the numbers in this game? Your leading scorer was Addie Brown with 19. Audie Crooks then followed it up with 13, going 4 of 10 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, there. Sydney Harris with 12, Kelsey Jones with 2, and Ariana Jackson with 0. Those were your starters. Then you also factor in Tanky with 10 and Alyssa Williams with 7 coming off the bench. Excuse me one second here. As I said, voice throat is something's going around. That is for sure. West Virginia, on the other hand, had 2 players with 20 points. Harrison and Quinterly, kind of 2 we mentioned prior to this game. Sydney Shaw and Kylie Blackston had 8 each, and then Kaya Watson had 12 as far as starters goes. They brought 14 off the bench with 10 from Revere and 4 from Thomas. So, honestly, numbers-wise, I don't think Iowa State shot poorly. 50% from the floor, 30% from 3. It really came down to me to, I don't want to say that it was the effort thing again, but it kind of wasn't not that. Losing that first quarter 15-30 is a bad look because then the rest of the game, you lose by 3 in the second quarter, you lose by 2 in the third, and you win the fourth by 6. So if we completely eliminated that first quarter, unless my math is wrong, which I don't think it is, we win by 1. I'm not here to do the math. It's not really my job. I kind of just talk. But the point being that we've seen this a couple of times this year. Iowa State just has to get out there and rolling. West Virginia, as we've talked about, flies. They are fast. Okay. Steals wise, 16-5. Iowa State with the 5 there. So West Virginia was ready. It seemed like they were just on wherever the ball was going. They seemed to know what Iowa State wanted to do. They were able to just kind of prevent from any plans getting to a point of where it was actually going to be a problem for the Mountaineers. That is, they seem to be right on everyone at all times. Assist wise, I like Iowa State with 18 out of the 24 buckets being assisted, 17 for 30 for the Mountaineers there. Like I said, not really here to talk about the Mountaineers too much, but this is the opponent we faced. 25 turnovers is just not a good look for Iowa State. 25-12 as far as, yes, we had 5 steals. We had 25 turnovers. They had 16 steals, so 16 of 25 being the result of West Virginia play. Not a great look. Not a great look. Iowa State now 13-7, 4-3 in the conference. And so where does that put them? 6th right now. I don't think anybody expected them to win this game. I did mention, I think this is a game they can win. Be curious to see how West Virginia responds. No, Emily Ryan puts a question mark on this whole thing. But West Virginia, very good basketball team. This women's team, very, very good. They play with intensity. They play fast. Okay. And we saw this on tape prior, and we saw it against in this game against West Virginia, against Iowa State. Coming up, they'll have BYU and UCF this week. That is Wednesday and Saturday for them as well. Hopefully we get Emily Ryan back, because this team is different without Emily Ryan, and we'll probably talk about that more tomorrow. So stick around for that, because I'll dive into the stats more on Emily Ryan, and we'll talk about how much of an impact is this a concern if we start to see this happen more. But hopefully she's back. We'll face BYU at home and UCF at home, so those will help. Obviously, being at home is a big deal. Hilton, the magic it is. Everybody knows that by now. But this, that loss to West Virginia is disheartening, but it comes off a 3-game win streak. I think the biggest really concern is just kind of, it felt like Iowa State, it didn't, I don't know, I don't want to say they gave up, but West Virginia just flew around fast. And they frustrated Crooks. They were able to find a way to get her down to 13 points, only 4 of 10, obviously 5 of 6 from the line. 6 shots there is always a good thing, but obviously you like to see more, but they were able to kind of narrow down what Iowa State does well and pin them in a way that forced them to really play at a level that they really can't, at an unreasonable level. Not that they can never get to that level, but on a nightly basis, you can't assume that you'll play that well. West Virginia was able to do that, and Iowa State wasn't able to do the same back to them. Obviously, Quinterly and Harrison with 20 points is kind of case in point there. So Cyclones 13-7, 4-3 in the conference. I think I said 6th. Yes, 6th in the conference now. Faces BYU and UCF. We'll break that down more this week, as well as the Emily Ryan situation and what does that mean to this team. But overall, I 68 points still out of the Cyclones against a very good West Virginia team. I'm not too ashamed by that performance as a whole. It's just sometimes you're not going to get them. You're not going to bring home the hardware. And West Virginia, very good team. So I don't feel too discouraged by this one. They'll just look to bounce back this week. End of story. That being said, thank you so much for making it to this point. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Be sure you do that so we can prove it's Cyclone State once and for all. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.